Thank you and good evening. My name is Ali Hamoud. I'm a former president of AAPAC. I'm a former vice president of AAPAC, and it is my distinct honor to welcome you to AAPAC's 22nd annual dinner. We gather here in common cause to celebrate 22 years of an organization that was the first of its kind to bring greater value and awareness to the Arab American community about the value of civic engagement and public service. We serve under the belief that it is important for all communities to organize and get engaged, and we are only as strong as our collective effort. The process is better when we are involved, when everybody is involved. Because of those efforts of AAPAC and other organizations that promote these similar ideals, we are now uniquely positioned to speak on and impact issues on a national level as well as the city level and the state. So on behalf of all of our members, I want to thank you for your support, your commitment to the political process, and your commitment to this community. We have a short program. I know I always say that. Everybody wants to eat. We got great food here at Biblos Joe Bazzi. Our first speaker is, please help me welcome the 20th District Court Magistrate and President of AAPAC, the Honorable Mona Fadlallah.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's so nice to see everyone here, and I know there are several events going on in the community, and so it's just wonderful that we're able to get so many people here to join us this evening. This is our 22nd annual banquet. I have not been a member since the beginning, but I have been a member for, I think, a little over 8 years. We do value your continued support, and we truly are honored and delighted that you're all here this evening. I'm just so thankful to be part of an organization which has truly stood the test of time. An organization which does not by any means shy away from addressing problematic issues facing our community. Any decision to endorse a candidate or a proposal is always a well-informed one. AAPAC is comprised of students, various professionals, business owners, public officials, and the list goes on. Every member's input is relevant regardless of one's political stance, age, or gender. Even non-AAPAC community members are always encouraged to attend AAPAC discussions and presentations regarding proposals or candidates. As AAPAC members, we are all volunteers, offering our time, experience, and skill to do whatever we can for the benefit of the community. The entire membership is always invited to provide varying perspectives when analyzing political and community issues, all before we endorse. AAPAC empowers the community to be actively engaged in politics. It has stood at the forefront of several issues, especially those surrounding our children in public schools. Simply put, the community comes first. This year is definitely no exception. And you'll hear more about the bond affecting our public schools this evening. Our organization would not be what it is without AAPAC's members, volunteers, and all of you here. I'd like to thank the dinner committee for planning this amazing dinner. Most importantly, thank you to AAPAC's founding member and current chair of the Bylaws Committee, Attorney Abid Hamoud, for your vision and continued leadership. I really can't thank you enough for all that you do for this organization. And I just can't tell you what an amazing individual he is. He is so helpful, so gracious, and I'm very blessed that he's the founder of this organization and that I'm able to be a part of it. And of course, I cannot leave out Osama Sablani, publisher of the Arab American News and AAPAC's Public Relations Chair. Osama, your guidance is indispensable. Your kindness is unmatched, and we're so lucky to have you as well. He offers his office for our meetings, and he never says no. I just say, we need to have a meeting on this day, and he says, sure. And he responds right away, as busy as he is. So I'm very thankful for you, Osama. And I'd like to also thank, yes. And I'd also like to thank other founding members, longstanding APAC members, Ali Bel-Eid Al-Malkani from Yaba, Ramiz Zach Haidar, and Commissioner Sam Beydoun. Thank you all for your for your enduring participation and support. Honestly, all the members are terrific, and if I had the time, I'd name everyone, but I can't. But I am very appreciative of being surrounded by so many great people. My fellow executive board members, I could not do this without you. Internal Vice President, Attorney Fadwa Hamoud, now Solicitor General. External Vice President Dave Abdullah, Dearborn Heights City Council, of course. Treasurer Nora El-Kanas, and Secretary Attorney Farah Habala. Thank you all for your commitment and your invaluable input. I also have to acknowledge and thank past members who have left us only because they were appointed to judge and they were unable to serve as members of a political action committee. Former President of APAC, the Honorable Judge Miriam Bazzi. And this is my 4th term as president. I can't believe it. She served as president for 4 terms, and I thought I could never do that. Fortunately, the new Solicitor General Fedwa gets to stay with us. We hope that the endorsed candidates, they will be read, the names of the endorsed candidates will be read later on this evening. We hope that they will be elected on Tuesday, November 5th, and we hope that they will use their official platforms to continue to promote equitable policies. I'd like to also thank Biblos and Joe Bazzi for allowing us to host our event here and for providing us with a fabulous dinner. Once again, thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Mona. Okay, now is the time of the program for me to announce the elected officials. When I call your name, please hold your applause to the end. It's a little bit of a lengthy list. Sam Beydoun, Wayne County Commissioner. Judge Miriam Saad Bazzi, 3rd Circuit Court Judge. Lisa Hicks Clayton, Dearborn Heights City Council. Denise Maxwell, Dearborn Heights City Council Chairwoman. Judge Gene Hunt of the 19th District Court, the Chief Judge of the 19th District Court. Mona Fadallah, 20th District Court Magistrate. Judge Donald Knapp, 3rd Circuit Court Judge. Salwa Fawaz, Crestwood School Board Trustee. Ray Muscat, Dearborn Heights City Council. Mike Serini, Dearborn City Council President Pro Tem. Nadia Berry, Crestwood School Board Trustee. Russell Cavaluna, President of Henry Ford College. Judge David Allen, 3rd Circuit Court. Judge Dan Hathaway, 3rd Circuit Court. Judge John Gillis Jr., Wayne County Circuit Court. Dave Abdullah, City Councilman, Dearborn Heights. Judge David Perkins, Wayne County Probate Court. Abdullah Hamoud, State Representative for the 15th District. Kim Worthy, Wayne County Prosecutor. Judge Alexis Crott, 31st District Court Judge. Dr. Glenn Maleko, Dearborn School Superintendent. Judge Sam Salami, 19th District Court. Elizabeth Mullins, Judge of the 28th District Court. Judge David Turfy, the Chief Judge of the 20th District Court. Yosef Masallam, Superintendent of Crestwood Schools. Judge Mark Summers of the 19th District Court. Susan DeBaja, Council President, City of Dearborn. Judge David Braxton, 3rd Circuit Court. Judge Eric Cholak, 3rd Circuit Court. Zainab A. Hussein, representing Wayne County Executive's Office. Jim Godbout, President of the Westland City Council. Edward Joseph, 3rd Circuit Court Judge. Bill Bazzi, Dearborn Heights City Council. Dana Nessel, Michigan Attorney General. Rola Un, Magistrate of the 19th District Court. Judge Karen Braxton of the 3rd Circuit Court. Judge Kiana Lillard of the 3rd Circuit Court. The Honorable Bridget Hathaway, 3rd Circuit Court. The Honorable Noah Hood, 3rd Circuit Court. And Mary Lane, Dearborn School Board. And we have one candidate, and that is Timothy Gilbert. He's a candidate for City Council in Westland. So please give them all a round of applause. If I forgot anybody, please, I will come back to it in the end. Our next speaker is a former Assistant Wayne County Prosecutor, former Assistant Federal Prosecutor, and now he's a private attorney. Please help me welcome Mr. Abed Hammoud.
Good evening. Thank you all for coming to our 22nd annual dinner. Seems like yesterday we started. Before I do what I'm supposed to do here, he called me up to introduce our next speaker. I'm going to add something to Mona Fadlallah's, our president's speech, because when you start naming people, you always forget somebody, and she did forget something. And one of the things, before I say who she forgot, one of the things I'm most proud of this organization is not only its current members, former members, but what we produce, the quality of the members we have, but also the appointments and the positions they got to. A good friend of ours, I believe it's Ali Jawad, who said one day, AAPAC is becoming like a school that graduates very good public servants and successful people. And Mona did mention the members who left us because they became judges, but she mentioned one only, and she forgot Judge Hilal Farhat, who is also a member of AAPAC till he got appointed. And I can go on about the people who are members of AAPAC who hold public office or did hold public office or are about to hold public office. Council President Pro Tem Mike Sarini also is a member of AAPAC. Many people don't realize who are members of AAPAC because they think of them just as elected officials. In any case, I'm here to introduce our next speaker, Dan Lemish. I'm going to try not to be too biased because, for lack of a better term, I'm a big fan of Dan, and he's a good friend of mine and a mentor too. Attorney Dan Lemish spent many years in public service before recently, in 2018, leaving the government to work as a general counsel for Lakeview Capital. There's so much I can say about him, but I'm going to be brief. Dan served the last position in government. He served as the acting United States Attorney in the Eastern District of Michigan after former U.S. Attorney Barbara McQuaid was, the term is resignation, but really is forced resignation by President Trump. So Dan was a chief assistant and took over the office until the appointment of the current U.S. Attorney Matthew Schneider. Before that, he served about 19 years in the office, the U.S. Attorney's office, holding many positions, criminal chief and also chief assistant, as I said. He also prosecuted a wide range of cases, from public corruption, white-collar crime, healthcare fraud, narcotics, you name it. Before that, actually, Dan was a Oakland County prosecutor for 8 years, so he has a long career of public service. Dan also, one of the most famous things about Dan, he's internationally known to be a lecturer for the Justice Department around the world, literally, in areas of criminal justice reform and other subjects for many countries. He's been to many countries, including many in the Middle East. In fact, in 2008, Dan served as a legal advisor for the United States Justice Department and State Department in Belgrade. And of course, none of you said, oh my God, Belgrade 2008, because Belgrade in 2008, the United States Embassy was attacked and burned because of the role the US played in Kosovo, and Dan had to be evacuated with his family. So he served in difficult times overseas, and for that we thank him. I can go on, but I'm not going to do that. But I tell you one thing, the most important thing about Dan that you cannot see from his resume is his personality. Dan Lemish is known to have excellent temper. He's always the guy they go to solve the problems between the judges, the prosecutors, everybody, and also stellar reputation in the legal profession and in the society in general. But I can tell you, when you ask people about Dan, and I've heard this many, many times, they always tell you two words about Dan. They say Dan Lemish is a class act. Please help me welcome former United States Attorney Dan Lemish.
Good evening, everyone. It is a real pleasure to be here with you tonight, and I thank my dear friend and colleague and co-professor Abed Hammoud for asking me to speak with you tonight. As Abed mentioned, I was a prosecutor for 27 years, and I suppose that gives me somewhat of a credential to say that I'm kind of a law enforcement guy. but it may not be the kind of law enforcement that you initially think of. I am not here to tell you that everybody who is a heroin addict deserves to go to prison, or everyone caught selling a rock of crack cocaine deserves to be a felon, or everybody caught with a gun in their car needs to go to prison. There are other laws that I am equally as proud to enforce, in particular, civil rights laws. And the two of my favorite cases that I ever worked on in my career affected this community, and I am the most proud of them, and I want to talk about them. Because Abed asked me to speak to you tonight somewhat about impeachment. And I will address that slightly, but to get there, I just want to talk about two of my favorite cases. And they both were related, and we brought them both at the same time. One involved a group that wanted to build an Islamic center in Pittsfield Township, out near Ann Arbor. The other involved a group that wanted to build a mosque in Sterling Heights. And the city fathers in both of those communities and the zoning commissions in both of those communities denied their requests. And they came up with reasons like the number of parking spaces compared to the number of people using the buildings was going to be too low, and it would cause traffic problems. The traffic patterns in the area would be disrupted by these places. In the case of Sterling Heights, they said the height of the minarets were too tall for the community. Our office got involved, and you know what law enforcement and investigators can do? They investigate. They interview people. They put people under oath, under the penalty of perjury. They issue subpoenas. They gather documents. They review evidence. And we try to get to the truth. And there generally is a truth. When you put all the noise and argument aside, there is a truth. And the truth, it turned out in these cases, was the ratio of parking spaces to the buildings compared to the neighborhood were actually more. There were more parking spaces than in the other neighboring buildings. The traffic patterns were no different than if any other business were to come into those neighborhoods. The height of the minarets in Sterling Heights were actually lower than churches in the area. So what became very obvious to us was that these enterprises were zoned out of existence for a pretext. In other words, they gave excuses as to why these places couldn't be built. They were pretexts. They really didn't want them built because they did not want people of the Muslim faith worshiping and gathering in their communities. And you know what? That's illegal. That's against the law in this country. That violates our United States Constitution that entitles all of us to worship as we wish, to live where we want, to do business where we want, to freely associate with who we want. And we enforced that law, and we won. And there is an Islamic center in Pittsfield Township now, and they're still building the mosque in Sterling Heights, but it's being built. I know that there are many people in this room tonight that come from countries that I would characterize as having authoritarian regimes. And I'm not saying that critically. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm not criticizing. It's just an observation that there are countries with authoritarian regimes. And what I mean by that is the people in authority get to do what they want to do. That's what an authoritarian regime is. If the Communist Party in China wants to arrest 1 million Uyghurs, right? These are Chinese people who happen to practice the Islamic faith. If they want to lock them up and put them in re-education camps, there's no one to stop them. They don't have one of these. They don't have a constitution, and they don't have the institutions built under our constitution to stop them. If President Erdogan of Turkey wants to send Syrian refugees back to Syria in great danger, who's going to stop him? The authority gets to do what they want to do. But in this country, we have rights, right? Everybody knows, I got rights. I got a right to free speech, a right to freedom of religion, a right to free association, life, liberty, property. That's actually not true. If you read this document, this is our Constitution in the United States, it does not say you have a right to free speech. What it says is the government shall not pass any laws that restrict your ability to free speech. It doesn't say you have a right to freedom of religion. It says the government shall not establish a national religion in this country. It doesn't say you have a right to life, liberty, and property. It says the government shall not deprive you of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. And the reason I'm saying this to you is to explain this document doesn't affirmatively grant you rights. It is a negative restriction on the power of the government to restrict your rights. This limits the government. It limits the power of our government, which is how you have your rights, which is how you enjoy your rights. This document can tell the government, stop. What you're doing is illegal. Now, I told you about my favorite two cases. I'm going to tell you about my least favorite case, my worst case, the one I am least proud of. And we didn't bring it. It was dropped in our lap. But it involved the President of the United States' decision to deport people of Iraqi descent back to Iraq in 2017. Some of these people had been in this country since they were infants. It's the only country they knew. They didn't speak the language. They didn't have friends, relatives back in Iraq. But they broke the laws here, and they were ordered removed, which is the current phrase for deported. They were going to be deported into very dangerous, life-threatening situations. And the American Civil Liberties Union got involved, and they sued in our district court in Detroit. And a judge by the name of Mark Goldsmith issued an order that said, government, stop. Government, you may not deport any of these people until I've had more time to review. Now, that decision has subsequently been changed by the United States Supreme Court, and people have been deported. But at the time, in 2017, one man with a pen and a piece of paper was able to stop the most powerful government the world has ever known from doing what that government wanted to do and what the president himself had ordered his government to do. One man stopped it. That's the power of our Constitution in this country. That's what a constitutional democracy is. I heard President Trump talk about a judge who ruled on his Trump University case. I don't know if you remember that, but he ruled against him, and the president had to cough up $20-some million. And you know what the president said about that judge? He said his decision is illegitimate. Why? Because he's a Mexican. That's what our president said. Now, first of all, that was incorrect. The judge was born in Indiana. He's an American. His parents happened to be from Mexico. But so what? Our president criticized a sitting Article III legitimate judge appointed by a president, confirmed by our Senate, authorized by this document in Article III because he said he was a Mexican. By criticizing that judge and that judge's national origin, in my opinion, the president is criticizing the legitimacy of the office of the judiciary. And that's an office he is sworn to uphold. So, our Constitution puts limits on the power of the government. That's where we derive our freedom. Our Constitution tells the president himself what he can't do. And what he can't do is commit high crimes or misdemeanors. That's what the Constitution says. Now, what's a high crime or misdemeanor? It's very fuzzy, and it has been since the founding of our republic. But if you commit a high crime or misdemeanor, you can be impeached. So, has our president committed high crimes or misdemeanors? I suppose that depends on what cable news show you choose to watch. If you watch Fox News, the president has done nothing wrong, and this is all a plot of the Democrats who are upset because Hillary didn't win. If you watch MSNBC, everything the president has done since he was inaugurated is a high crime or misdemeanor. Again, it's the noise on both sides. How do you get to the truth? Well, you do exactly what our Congress is doing today. They are having impeachment hearings to determine whether our president has committed high crimes or misdemeanors. Should our president be impeached? I don't know. But I know who does know. Congress. They were given the authority in this document, the sole authority of impeachment, Article 1, Section 2, Clause 5. And that's what they're doing today. They're interviewing witnesses. They're putting people under oath under the penalty of perjury. They're subpoenaing documents. They're reviewing evidence to determine the truth. And I'm not suggesting that impeachment be taken lightly or that the man absolutely should be impeached. Impeachment is a big deal. This man was elected by voters in this country, and we do not want to make impeachment just a normal part of our political process in this country. Otherwise, the day after inauguration, the impeachment hearings start, and it's disruptive to government. But if the House of Representatives thinks that the president may have committed high crimes or misdemeanors, they have the duty to hold hearings to determine whether to impeach. I worked for the government for 27 years. I know Abed did. I see other people in this room who were government officials. We just heard a list of the numerous sitting government officials in this room. And we all have one thing in common. We all took an oath of office. We put our hands on a Bible or a Quran, or we simply raised our right hand, and you know what we said? We swore to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States from all enemies, foreign and domestic. You know who else took that oath? The President of the United States. That's his main job, is to protect and defend this. We did not take an oath of loyalty to a person, to a president. We didn't take an oath of loyalty to a party or a religion or an ideology. We took an oath to protect this piece of paper. And ladies and gentlemen, it is a flimsy, old, withered, faded piece of paper. And if I walked over to you now and I smacked you on the head with it, you'd hardly feel a thing because it's just a piece of paper. The only thing that gives it any power is our culture of a constitutional democracy and our institutions that were formed under this document. Our judiciary, our blessed independent judges who are in the room tonight, who make decisions based on the law and the facts and not loyalty to an individual. Institutions like our prosecutors who enforce laws, including the Department of Justice that enforces civil rights laws. Those are the institutions that must be defended. And when I hear our president say that the impeachment proceedings that are going on now are illegitimate, they're phony, there's no such thing as an emolument clause, I heard him say last week. It's phony. Well, it's in here. It strikes me that that president either doesn't understand this document or doesn't want to understand this document, which may be even worse. We live in the most multicultural, multi-religious, multi-ethnic country the world has ever known. And the only reason we get to live in relative peace with each other, with all of our differences, is because we uphold the truths in this document and the institutions that defend them. So that's what I was trying to do here tonight, is to defend it. I am so happy and thrilled that you would allow me to speak with you tonight on this topic that is very important to me. I appreciate Abed and Osama and all the work that you do. I appreciate the work of AAPAC. But here's specifically why. It's not just because you represent your community so well, which you do, and you advocate for your community so well. It's because, as I heard Nabi Ayad say one time, Muslims in this country are the canaries in the coal mine. Our country went temporarily insane after 9/11. Those types of feelings and sentiments can recur. But if you look after yourselves, and this document is upheld to protect your rights, it will protect all of us. It will protect our entire country, which is why the work that AAPAC does and the work of everyone in this room is so important. And again, I thank you so much.
Forgot a couple names, of course. Eric Sabri, Wayne County Treasurer, just joined us. And again, hold your applause till the end. Zain Al-Hassan, Chief Legal Counsel for the Kresge Foundation. Chris DeRusha, Chief of Cybersecurity for the State of Michigan. Fayrouz Saad, Executive Director of the Office of Global Affairs for the State of Michigan. Tony Guerrero, former judge of the 24th District Court, and also with Wayne County, Kim Worthy's office. And there's one I totally forgot, Michigan Solicitor General Fadwa Hamoud. And also we got former candidate for governor Abdul Al-Sayed with us too. Thank you for being here. Next I'm going to call up the AAPAC's secretary. She's going to speak about the endorsement process. Please help me welcome Attorney Farah Haballah.
Good evening. So about AAPAC's endorsement process, it's spelled out in detail in its bylaws, and it must be strictly adhered to by the members before a candidate is endorsed. Candidates for public office who seek AAPAC endorsements must do so in writing. The endorsement committee will then, The endorsement committee will then review these requests and schedule interviews with the candidates. AAPAC bylaws does not mandate the interviews, but they are part of the process, especially with the candidates who are new to our organization. The committee will then report to the general membership before the endorsement vote, which can only take place after all the members in good standing are notified in writing 1 week in advance of the date, time, and place of the vote. There can be no surprise endorsement votes. Only members in good standing are allowed to vote. Candidates must obtain the votes of 2/3 of the members attending the meeting in order to be endorsed. Non-members may also participate by providing information that could sway the vote, which depends on their arguments and evidence to back that up. So this year, AAPAC members endorsed the following candidates. For Dearborn Heights City Council, Dave Abdullah, who is AAPAC's Vice President. Lisa Hicks Clayton. For Westland City Council, Timothy Gilbert. James Goodboo. For Inkster Mayor, Byron Nolan. For Inkster City Council, Legina Washington. Aaron Sims. And for Dearborn Schools Bricks Bond, AAPAC endorse a vote yes. And speaking of Dearborn Schools Bond, I am pleased to call up someone who needs no introduction, of course, AAPAC's Vice President, Michigan Solicitor General, former Dearborn Board of Education member, and low-key superwoman, Fadwa Hamoud.
All right, good evening, everyone. I don't blame Ali for forgetting me. It happens often nowadays. I saw him today and he's like, you look familiar. I'm like, salam, fadwa. So we wait for occasions to see each other, which is not bad because we do have, an event and an occasion here in Dearborn 3 times a week. So good to see you all again. But this is definitely, I would say, my personal favorite dinner. This is my family, and so happy and honored to be before you today. I address you today in my personal capacity, even though I'm extremely proud to serve with the Department of Attorney General for the best Attorney General that this state has ever seen, Attorney General Dana Nessel. And proud to say that I think for the first time at AAPAC here, we actually have a table that is full from our Attorney General's office with employees here from the Attorney General's office in Lansing supporting this community, and it's the first time I've seen it, so thank you for being here tonight. However, tonight I'm addressing you in my personal capacity. I'm addressing you as a community member, as a mother, as a vice president of AAPAC, as a former school board trustee, but as a member of this organization that was literally born out of the fight for our schools and public education. And speaking of education, here is an important yet very devastating fact. The state of Michigan's education funding growth ranks bottom of all states. Yet, I did read an article in the Press and Guide to give you some good news. Dearborn actually ranks 3rd in the best trick-or-treating city in the country. So that's pretty sweet, but we have to get our priorities straight, and those are devastating facts. Let's talk about the upcoming vote on November 5th. The BRICS bond is going to be on the ballot, and the choice we face is not simply about school funding. We face a moral choice about what type of city and society we want our neighbors and our children to be in here in Dearborn. Will we be a city that affirms its commitment to the common good, or will we abandon the idea that we are all in this together? AAPAC members affirmed their commitment to the common good with an endorsement of a yes vote on the BRICS bond proposal, and I am proud of this organization for standing for education time and time again. Now, on its face, this is a decision about funding and school finance can be complicated in Michigan. So I think it's useful to frame this in the simplest possible way to get to the heart of what matters. The Dearborn School District is responsible for 34 buildings. Every single day, 21,000 students spend the majority of their walking hours in those buildings. Some of the boilers in these buildings were installed during Ronald Reagan's first term in office. And nearly 1.4 million square feet of school space in Dearborn dates back to the 1920s. We really do have an infrastructure crisis in our state, and every municipality feels it. And while we think of roads and bridges and airports as the most important and urgent needs when it comes to our crumbling infrastructure, we need to recognize that our schools are part of that story. Because as a community, we recognize that no parent wants to send their child to wear a jacket in math class because the school's boiler is nearly 40 years old. No parent wants their child to walk down unsafe stairs because the rubber treads are old and torn and worn. No parent wants their child to use crumbling restrooms with broken faucets and rusted fixtures. We want our children to feel safe and dignified in our schools because whether we like it or not, a child's school is their second home. This bond would raise $245 million without raising the current millage rate of 4.82. But it would provide absolutely essential updates and repairs to help our kids flourish. And we have to be honest about the alternative, which is to stand on the sidelines and watch our infrastructure age until it becomes unmanageable and our repairs and our repair bills become unmanageable. When it comes to the welfare of our children, we cannot be spectators. We must be involved. We must look at school funding not just as a math problem, but as a moral problem. So let's give the kids at Lori new sewage pumps, stair railings, essential roof work, and new electrical wiring, because it's simply unacceptable for them to go to school in unsafe conditions. And let's give kids at Maple Elementary new drinking fountains and O.L. Smith safe sidewalks to walk on. Let's replace damaged wood in the Salina Intermediate Gym to ensure that a 7th grader doesn't risk injury when they're playing basketball or volleyball. And finally, as a mother, as a Dearborn resident, and of course as a member of this honorable organization, and as someone who believes in public education to my core, I, along with my colleagues here in AAPAC, urge you to vote yes on the BRICS proposal. Vote yes so that when our children walk into school every morning, they will know not just from our words, but from our deeds that we are putting them first. Let them know from their surroundings that education is a cherished ideal and that we will fight for it. Thank you. Next, I'm going to bring up to the stage a man that also needs no introduction, but a man who truly is a fearless leader and a giant in our community. And I know that Abed had mentioned names of many people who are AAPAC graduates and AAPAC members here tonight, and it truly is because they stood on the shoulder of this giant. So please help me welcome a founding member of this organization, a mentor of mine, my sweetheart, as I call him, along, of course, Ali, you know, you're number one, but you forgot about me today, so that's okay. Osama Siblani.
Thank you for that. I used to be a giant. I lost about 70 pounds. Thank you all for supporting AAPAC for 22 years in a row. We appreciate your presence and support. And you know, we do work hard because we know that we have a strong community behind us and with us all the time. I do not need to tell you about the progress that we've made in this community because you can just feel it. Look around you and see how many people we have in office today, how many people are moving forward in all sectors, in all segments of our community, and in all the state, from the governor's office all the way to the city council or the Board of Education, whether it's in Hamtramck, Inkster, Westland, Dearborn Heights, Dearborn, everywhere. So AAPAC has been doing the work, but we cannot do it without you. So thank you for coming today. But let me first salute the Lebanese people who are standing outside and protesting and demanding an end to corruption in one of the most beautiful nations on the face of this earth. And they have to know that we support them, we stand with them, we need to end corruption and bring decency to the Lebanese citizens because they deserve it. We have fine people who we have endorsed, and there are many who are out there that they need your support. Please support the people who we endorsed, and in particular, stand up and support and go on November 5 and vote yes on the BRICS, the Dearborn Public School bond. AAPAC, like Fedwa said, led the fight. Just let me remind you, just take 1 minute and tell you, in 2002, we rejected a bond for $50 million. Single-handedly, AAPAC and the Arab American News. 2000? 99 and 2000. So I have the prosecutor in here, the attorney. So we defeated the bond the first time, we defeated the bond the second time, because they underestimated our resolve. We said $50 million is not enough. And we supported a bond for $150 million, and it passed. And we built schools, Gear Parks, McAuliffe Eunice, Michael Berry Career Center, Salina Elementary, and we extended also the Fortson High School. I'm sure I missed some details. But what I was saying to you, that AAPAC knew that we needed more schools because our community, fortunately, they have kids. And they produce many kids. So at that time, and before even 1999, the Dearborn Public School were like 13,400, 13,500 students. Today, we are 21,000 students. So we had the vision, and with your support, we were able to build more schools and better schools for our kids. Now, we need to upgrade the schools that they are 80 and 90 years old. We just cannot have our kids in schools, mice peeing on them and cockroaches going around them. And the schools are crumbling. They're 80, 90, and some of them are 100 years old. So they really need upgrades. Support Brick Bond. I'm here to introduce a very important person to our community and to the state. Let me first say that Dana Nessel, when she ran for office, many people underestimated her resolve. Many people wrote her off, said she will never be able to make it. AAPAC believed in Dana Nessel. AAPAC believed in the school that Dana Nessel came from, which is the Kim Worthy School. Dana Nessel fought, and she said during her campaign that she is going to include every community in her administration. She is a pioneer for civil rights and social justice. She has taken a stand for equality and justice for all, even if it is not the popular opinion at the time. She has brought back the voice of the people to the state of Michigan. Dana has been a fighter for the people, for immigration issues, to consumer protection issues, to protection of marginalized communities, and creating the first of its kind hate crimes unit in the state. Dana has been on the front lines of the fight for education, for drug and substance abuse, for child abuse. She dared to charge 6 priests, right? Seven of them, and there are more coming on I think. But the best decision that Dana has made is appointing our sister, Fadwa Hammoud, to the Michigan Solicitor General. Dana Nessel, hand down, has made more news in the state of Michigan than any other elected officials. She has tackled a host of issues. She scrubbed the Bill Schuete's probe into the Flint water crisis, and she is starting over. Dana Nessel, in the first year, has done more than other attorney generals have done in 8 years. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the podium Michigan Attorney General, the lady Dana Nessel.
Thank you for that very kind introduction, Osama. So let me be clear about something in regard to the support that I received from AAPAC. Were it not for the support of AAPAC and of this community in particular, I would not be Attorney General of the state of Michigan. There's no the fact of the matter is, had you not supported me, the person who would be in that position would be a man who was endorsed by not one, but two anti-Arab American hate groups. But instead of him, you got me. And I would say that that's a good thing. And, you know, I went into this office with, well, with a bunch of different promises. But some of the promises that I made you were this. One is that we would be a department that really cared again about equal protection under the law for all communities and all people in this state. And that second, we would be a state office that properly reflected the great diversity of the state of Michigan. And we've tried to accomplish both of those things. And as I guess I've ruined the surprise by now, you know that my Solicitor General is the amazing Fadwa Hammoud. And she is the first state Solicitor General who is Muslim in American history. But let me say this, that's not why I appointed Fadwa to that position. I appointed her Solicitor General because I wanted to have the very best attorney that I knew representing the state of Michigan in its biggest and most important cases. And to me, that person was Fadwa. And you should clap for that. And, you know, as you know, she, alongside Prosecutor Kim Worthy, are handling the Flint cases. And that's just one of the many important roles that she plays in my office. But, you know, of the things that we have tried to do at the Department of Attorney General, besides the complete opposite of everything that Bill Schuette did when he was there, you know, I feel like it's almost a little pandery if I only talk about immigration issues. Although that's been a significant part of the work that we've done. Because one thing that we know is Arab Americans, hey, they also care about consumer protection, right? And the Arab American community also breathes air and drinks water and cares about issues of environmental justice. And the Arab American community also pays gas and electric bills, so also cares about ratepayer issues and many of the other things that we do at that office. But it is sort of hard to escape how important the state attorneys general have become when it comes to protecting minority communities and specifically protecting immigrant communities. And the war on immigrants by our federal government is honestly nothing that I have ever seen before in my lifetime. And when I heard Mr. Lemish say, you know, should Donald Trump be impeached? We don't know. Well, some of us do, a little bit, I will say. And so whenever that question comes up, I always say, hashtag ask Rashida. But I will leave it to her to make that decision. But what we've tried to do is this. Each and every time the Trump administration has promulgated a rule or an order or done anything to harm immigrant communities that affect our state, we have fought back. And we have filed lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit. And I have been accused on occasion of perhaps filing too many lawsuits against the Trump administration. But I will tell you what, if I go to my grave and the only thing that anybody ever remembers about me is that I sued the Trump administration as much as I possibly could in order to protect and defend the people of the state of Michigan, then that will make me a very, very happy person. And I won't have any problem with that at all. And so some of the cases that we have had to become involved in, whether it has to do with our effort to protect Dreamers under DACA, whether it has to do with fighting against diversions of our money that should go to the Michigan State Police, but instead are building a ridiculous border wall that I think I saw a 12-year-old scale in 45 seconds. whether it has to do with protecting those who come to this country seeking asylum from persecution in other nations, whether it has to do with public charge and going after legal immigrants who seek out state services, or whether it even has to do with protecting children who are detained by the federal government and are not provided with soap or toothpaste or even medical services. What kind of a nation have we become that we have to defend children against the federal government when it seeks to deny them basic medical services? I mean, sometimes I feel like I'm in a nightmare that I wonder if I'll ever be able to wake up from. And all I know is that we need to utilize the AG's office to fight back, to defend people in this country in a way that we've never had to do so before. And I'm proud that because of all of you, I have the opportunity to do just that. And I will be tireless and relentless in continuing to fight on behalf of all people here in the state of Michigan and in the United States. But I will say this, as long as you have me at the AG's office, please know that you always will have someone who believes in protecting and defending and respecting the Arab American community and all communities in this state. So thank you to all of you. Thank you for your support. And we are going to keep on fighting.
In fact, as of July, her office, the Attorney General's office, were handling 3,800 lawsuits, and most of those lawsuits, Dana Nessel herself is involved. So I would like to bring in the executive board and the executive committee of AAPAC. We're going to be having a short presentations, and then we're going to have the dinner. Executive board, executive committee, the president, Madam President. I'd like, meanwhile, to thank Joe Bazzi and the Biblos staff for a beautiful dinner to come. And I'd like to thank Osama Baalbaki for helping me for helping us doing the backdrop and all the printing in here. Thank you, Osama, for everything you do. And I'd like to recognize and congratulate our brother Yusuf Musallam for being named the superintendent of Crestwood Public Schools. And I wanted to stand up, please, wherever you are. Yusuf, Dr. Yusuf Musallam. And also, I'd like to recognize Salwa Fawaz and Nadia Berry for their hard work in making this happen. I'd like to call to the podium the President of the City Council of Dearborn, our sister, Susan Dabaja, to make the first presentation.
Good evening, everyone. So tonight I have the privilege and the honor to talk a little bit about our Community Service Award awardee. And it is someone who has truly given back to the community, and that's Kimberly Ishmael. Kimberly has turned a life lesson from her father on giving back into a lifelong mission. And her mission is to give back in the form of volunteering for all causes, thinking of ways of how she could raise funds or donations to give to people that are less fortunate, especially children and women. And her work has not only been recognized by her beloved Dearborn community, but also by the state, where she was recently recognized and awarded the Michigan Volunteer of the Year Award this past year. I think that deserves a big applause. What's unique about Kimberly is she doesn't really wait for others to ask or for groups to form some sort of way to get things that people need. She actually takes the initiative. She spearheads these things. And once she finishes a project, she looks for the next. And so when Abby told me I'd have the honor of presenting this to her, I thought, well, how am I going to give her list of accomplishments or her things that she's done in this community in 2 to 3 minutes? I'm going to go through a few of these things because you have to understand how deserving she is of this award. She is currently the chairwoman of the Dearborn City Beautiful Commission. She's the vice president of the League of Women Voters, Dearborn Heights. She serves on the Dearborn Symphony Board of Directors. Some of her projects include an annual coat drive or food drive. She'll sometimes do something as simple as raising funds for a woman who needs dental needs. She collects clothing monthly to give to shelters and to a community center in Westland. And a few months ago, Kimberly asked her friends for gently used designer purses filled with perfumes and makeups and lotions so that these women could have something that they don't typically get for donations. And in Ramadan, she helped make sure that a lot of refugee families were being fed. Also this year, she provided local needy families with 21 grocery cards for holidays, monies, and gift cards. She supports an annual child's lemonade stand to support, for money to go towards childhood cancer. And her most recent project is she's hoping to get passed a bill that is specifically aimed at texting and driving after introducing the Arrive Alive Distracted driving campaign in Michigan. And I can go on and on and on. This woman is a superwoman. And what's even more important than that is that when she does this, she does it all without ever expecting recognition, ever. And I'm always inspired by Kimberly. She has endless love and kindness that she spreads everywhere. And I always think that Kimberly is like this fairy that goes around and spreads her fairy dust and just making people's lives so much better. She's the essence of what kindness is. And if you were to dissect her weight, all 100 pounds of her, you would see 99% of it is heart. And she's just an incredible woman. And I think if we had more Kimberlys in the world, we would just be calling this heaven. So I'm blessed to present this honor on behalf of AAPAC to Ms. Kimberly Ishmael. Is she coming on now?
She's coming.
What? Oh, you're this way. I thought you were there.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you, AAPAC, for the honor tonight. I'm going to make this short and sweet because this isn't my forte. But I can honestly say that I see so many of you here tonight that have assisted me with the outreach work that I do. And I want you all to know that I share this with each and every one of you. And I'm just going to leave you simply with this. We should all extend our hands, if we're able to help those in need. It costs nothing. And believe me when I say that when you extend your hands to those that can't help you back, it goes a long way. It really does. So thank you, everybody. And one more thing. I'm going to leave you with something that my dad used to share with me. And it goes like this. And especially now with everything that's going on in our country. This land is my land. This land is your land. And I'm going to add that this land is everybody's land. Thank you.
This time I'd like to call to the podium our brother, the President Pro Tem of Dearborn City Council, Mike Sereni. Let's also bring in State Representative Abdullah Hamoud to the podium, please.
All right, good evening, everybody. Osama, thank you. I did want to recognize one of my colleagues, I believe, came in. Councilwoman Leslie Herrick came in today. Can you stand up? Thank you for being here, Leslie. I really appreciate it. You know, when they called and asked, well, when Abed calls and asks you to do anything, you really got not much choice, but I just say, Abed, who you want, who is it? Well, Abdullah Hamoud. Well, I mean, that's about as easy it could be for me. Abdullah's a good friend, good man, and I'd like to honor him tonight. He is the awardee tonight for the AAPAC's Public Service Award. And I can tell you guys this award is not something that's given out lightly. As you see, AAPAC has a tremendous membership of people that are highly educated, and they do take their job seriously. So when they do endorsement interviews and when they talk to politicians, people seeking office or people in office, they do hold them accountable. So Abdullah, this is a tremendous award that you will be able to receive tonight, because to get this award at AAPAC, it means what you said you were going to do, you actually did. And I can't think of anybody better. Abdullah, for a little bit of his background here, is serving his second term as the Michigan House of Representatives, 15th District, which is our home in Dearborn, where he grew up. He's also earned his degree right here at the University of Michigan, and then also went on and received his master's degree in public health at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. He was also, in 2014, nominated and elected as the youngest board member for Michigan League of Conservative Voters. Conservation, I apologize.
I'm a Democrat.
Yeah, sorry. Abdullah also received in 2018 the National Progressive Leadership Award. This award is given out only one per year for the youngest elected officials nationally who have progressive policies. Abdullah has also sponsors numerous bills throughout our state, including insurance reform, fair employment practice, environmental protection, air pollution. Those are just a few. You really could look into it. So, in closing, I just want to make a really good point, and a lot of us who are elected do understand. It is not popular to do the right thing. I know we had a lot of conversations about the Constitution, but the fact of the matter is, most of the time in political arenas, it's not popular. It's not popular to stand in front of a major employer in your city and say to them that you are polluting the air, and that is wrong. It's not popular to stand in front of a major employer and also say to them that you need to hire workers from the community in which you operate your business. And for that, Abdullah, I thank you for your leadership, and I appreciate you putting your name on the ballot and running. And no one is more deserving tonight for the Public Service Award than our brother, our friend, Abdullah Hamoud.
I'll be very short, I promise. First and foremost, thank you all so much, but I'll accept this on behalf of the community, because nothing that I do, I've done alone. I think as somebody who was born and raised here, as a proud McDonald Panther, as a proud Woodworth Hornet, as a proud Fortune Tractor, as a proud dual enroll student at Henry Ford Community College and a graduate University of Michigan Dearborn, I can point to almost every single table in this room and identify several individuals who have contributed to my success, whose shoulders I have stood on, and who have raised me. Because it's not easy to do the right thing when you're in office, but it's easy to do the right thing when you're fighting for home. And there's nothing like fighting for home. And Dearborn is the greatest city, not only in the state of Michigan, but in the whole world. And there's no place I'd rather call home than Dearborn. And so thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity of serving you, and hopefully there's a few more years left. But with that, thank you all. God bless you and have a good night.
At this time, I'd like to call to the podium our brother Khudr Farhat, and also for our president, Madam Muna Fadlallah, to come in for the presentation.
Yes. I do want to mention before I start and introduce my brother here, Khodad Farhat. Andrea Rahal, Miss Muslimina USA is with us this evening as well. Okay. Khodad Farhat, we're awarding him tonight for the Community Service Award. He's a public speaker, an advocate, and an activist. He currently serves as a liaison for the Dearborn Public Schools. And he emigrated here from Lebanon with his parents only 10 years ago as a teenager. He attended Lincoln Park High School, and he obtained his bachelor's degree in political science from the University of Michigan in Dearborn. While at U of M Dearborn, Khodad made it a point to, after noticing himself that there was improper signage when it came to the visually impaired, his infectious smile lights up the room, and he may have visual limitations, but his inherent sense of humanity has no boundaries. It is this humanity that guides him to lead and favorably effectuate change for the good of all. Please help me welcome Khodad Farhat.
Thank you. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
I want to thank you so much for this introduction that I don't deserve. I believe that I am doing the least that I can do. It's a humanitarian obligation to serve in whatever we can serve and whatever we can offer. I'd like to thank AAPAC for this wonderful recognition. I'm humbled and privileged. Thank you also for fighting on behalf of our community for the past 22 years. We came a long way and the best is yet to come. I'd like just to say one thing, that yes, I am sorry to, I'd like to say sorry to each and every single public official if I have invaded their email, their text messages, their mailboxes, always asking and checking on different policies regarding disabilities, visual impaired people, seniors, union members, whoever that I can land on. That's why I chose political science, guys, because I know that in order to make the biggest change, it has to be where the game is played. I can't change the rules if I'm sitting on the sideline. I have to be in the middle of the field. So for that, I am blessed to serve. I'm blessed to be part of this wonderful community. Thank you for all your support. Without you, I could have not done it. And have a good night. Thanks so much.
Stay with us. Stay with us. You're gonna take a picture.
Take a picture. Come this way. Come left. Left. Sure.
Okay. I just need you to lift your hand.
Thank you.
And at this time, I'd like to call to the podium Mr. Palestine.
Can you just scoot a little more? Okay. Yeah.
Who knows Mr. Palestine? I'm not gonna say his name. I'm gonna call him Mr. Palestine. Come to the podium, and also for our former Vice President, current Commissioner, Wayne County Commissioner Sam Baidoun, to make the presentation.
Good evening. Per Ali Jawad, I will make this very short. This Community Service Award recipient is an activist, an academic, and an artist. He has traveled the world with his stand-up comedy, telling story of Palestinians and Arab Americans at every turn. He has been deeply involved in political activism, whether it's mayoral races here in the city of Dearborn, state elections in Michigan, or presidential races where he has twice served, including currently as a national surrogate for the Bernie Sanders campaign. He earned his bachelor's degree in history from U of M's College of Literature, Science, and the Arts. His master's degree from U of M Centers for Middle Eastern and North African Studies, and his Juris Doctorate from University of Michigan Law School. He is currently an adjunct professor at University of Detroit Mercy Law School, where he teaches on the history of Arab Americans and the legal construction of race and as it pertains to us. Also, and perhaps most importantly, he has ensured that our core issue, Palestine, is always taken into account. He returned Palestine to the center of the conversation in our political activism here in Michigan. Please help me welcome this year's Community Service Awardee recipient, my good friend Amr Zahar.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you.
تعال نقدم لك اياه بالاول تعال.
By the way, one of the things that he did not say about Amr that he is a comedian, but I do not believe that he is funny.
Okay. I get paid to tell jokes. So. Thanks, Sam. Good evening, everybody. Masa al-khair. I'm the last thing before dinner, so I will keep it not too short. It is, I go around the country and the world, and I get to do what I do as far as comedy and activism, but there's nothing more special than being recognized in your own neighborhood, by your own community, so I'm deeply honored and humbled by this award here tonight. I am the Arab son of a Palestinian Christian dad and a Palestinian Muslim mom. I know that's haram, I don't know if the sheikh left, but my grandfather's names are Ilyas and Muhammad, which confuses Arabs and the Israeli border control whenever I meet them. My parents and grandparents all became refugees, sometimes more than once. Many in the room today, raise your hand if you're a Palestinian refugee or the descendant of a Palestinian refugee. Look at all these people. These are the people who we are fighting for and their stories when we are fighting out there on behalf of Palestine. It's that tradition of dispossession, displacement, and injustice that directs my art and activism, including my support of Bernie Sanders. A lot of people think it's weird that Arabs support Jews, like we support Bernie Sanders and we support Dana Nessel, and it's not weird. We love everybody. We don't judge anybody based on their religion or their ethnicity like people do to us. And Arabs and Jews are the same. We're both big nose, crazy mom, hairy, that's men and women, and we're the same. The only difference, Dana, is you're chosen by God and we're chosen by the FBI. That's the only difference. See, Osama? I'm fucking funny, man. I don't think you're all right. Palestine, as we all know, is at the center of the Arab American experience. It is that lies still in the heart of every Arab, whether they are Palestinian, Lebanese, Yemeni, Iraqi, no matter who they are here in our community or anything else. And for too long, Palestine has been seen in our community as sort of like a liability in the political arena. But I see it as my job to let everyone know, whether they're Arab or not, that saying free, free Palestine is not just the right thing to do, but it's good politics too. And we have done enough work to establish ourselves in this city and in this state to say it loudly. That means when a candidate tells us that she fully supports the denial of our rights to boycott Israel, we don't have to shy from her. We can confidently say to her, free, free Palestine. That means when both of our senators vote for a bill that outrageously funds Israel's military and denounces the BDS movement, we can in their faces also say, free, free Palestine. That means when Congress people, even when we consider them family and they're our close friends, make public moves that hurt the Palestinian cause, we can confidently say to them, free, free Palestine. Our love for Palestine is not something we need to place on the back burner. It's not something that we need to be careful about when introducing, because it's at the center of every Arab's heart. And to my non-Arab friends in the room, which we have many tonight, if you stand against apartheid South Africa, if you stood against apartheid Jim Crow in this country, if you stand against the unjustified killing of unarmed black citizens, then it's time to stand up against the racist Israeli state and what it's doing to us today. So, dear brothers and sisters, finally, I'm done now, Osama, I'm done. It is time to place Palestine at the tip of our tongues at every turn. And yes, that does mean you have to ask yourself some questions. Are you willing to sacrifice a photo with a politician to stand up for Palestine? Are you willing to piss off a politician to stand up for Palestine? Are you willing to be disliked by a politician to stand up for Palestine? I am, and I hope the rest of you are too, and I'll keep pushing all of us to do so. We are now at the point where we can shake less hands, snap less photos, and kick more asses. Maybe then they will respect us. And I'm done now, Osama. And finally, I'll say this. My philosophy on political activism is quite simple. It's very simple. It was first spoken by the most famous Palestinian of all time. That's not Gigi Hadid, it is Jesus. He was one of us. For everyone, he's not blonde hair and blue eyes. He looked like Osama 20 years ago. So,
I don't think you're funny.
when Jesus was confronted by occupation and tyranny and in the face of injustice, he looked at everyone very loudly and he said, "That which you do to the least of my brethren, you do to me." So I consider all of you my brethren. I love you all. Everybody in this room, I love you all. Shukran, good night, and we'll see you again soon.
I am so glad that Jesus looks like me and not like him. Anyway, I'd like to recognize the people in the media in here, the Arab American News, my fellow colleagues in here. They were here. I'm sure that they're still here. If they're not here, they will be in trouble. Multimedia, Imad Muhammad also is here, and Abbas Shab, and also the MEA. And Qasim is here as well. So before we say thank you for staying here with us and enjoying the food, I would like to call the elected official judges, and the first one is Sam Salami, who stood up. Please come here. We'd like to take a photo with you. The judges, elected officials.
Let me just, we also, Leslie Herrick came in late. Leslie Herrick from the Dearborn City Council.
She was recognized.
Okay, she was? Okay.
Can I please ask the judges, elected officials, and candidates and community leaders to come so we can take a photo? Dana, Abdul, خليني بس أول سؤال هلا حنشيلها Please. Magistrate, Rula on, Magistrate, Judge Hilal Farhat, Mariam Bazi, please. I'm not going to start calling names. You know, like, if you're an elected official, you're a community leader, you're a head of an organization. Glenn Maleko. Is Glenn here? Russell? Yeah. Russell Cabaluna, if he is here. Salwa Fawaz. Nadia Berry. علي جواد بليز علي جواد اتفضل شرف ابو جمال بلا ما تاكل هلا تعال. We're going to take this photo. Usually every year for the last 22 years we took a photo like this. So, but while we're taking the photos, please allow me for 1 second. Tomorrow at 10 o'clock in the morning, I will be joining Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson for kicking off the Citizens Not Politicians for the Redistricting Commission. Tomorrow at 10:30 it will be a live coverage, and I'm honored to join the Secretary of State at the podium. And let me tell you, we would like everyone in here listening, please, wherever you live, if you are interested in making this happen, redistricting and including your communities in the redistricting, please file an application and submit it to the Secretary of State. Tomorrow I will have more information and I will have more applications for you. Having said that, next year, AAPAC dinner will be one of the most important dinners for the last 23 years. Because next year we will be electing a president of the United States that respects people and the will of the American citizens. Bernie. All of them. I don't know if it's Bernie. But we will be gathering here again next year, and it will be an important year for all of us. Thank you again for joining us. We're going to take a picture in here, and then we are going to sit down and have a great dinner. Christina Grassi. And Ann Sherman, please come on. Actually, all the table for the Attorney General, please come and join us.